We begin the Gemara today at the last line on the bottom of Chav Gimel Amud Beis. Rabbi Yosi bar Avin have a shchiach kamei the Rabbi Yosi de min Yukris. Rabbi Yosi bar Avin was always found in front of his teacher Rabbi Yosi of Yukris. Shavke. Eventually he left him. Vasa lekamei de Ravashi, and he came to Ravashi to learn Torah from Ravashi. Yom echad, one day, Shamei the Kagaris, he heard him teaching the following halacha. Omar Shmuel, that Shmuel said, Hashayla dog menayam, someone that takes fish out of the water. Now, even though the Gemara says the term yam, as Rashi says, we're talking about a person that takes fish out of a bowl or some place where the fish is already captured. So what we're speaking about over here is not the issue of the malacha of tzeda. We're talking about on Shabbos, right? B'Shabbos. So the malacha here is not the fact that he captured it, it's already captured. However, what happens when you take the fish out of the water? It dies. So that's the malacha of sheichet. So at what point do you say that the fish is dead, that you are over on that malacha? So he said, Kivin sheyavash by kesela, if there is a part of the fish that became dried up, and the size of the body of the fish that dried up is the size of a sela, chayev. So then you chayev for this malacha of sheichet. That was the halacha that Shmuel said. Amalei, so Rabbi Yosi bar Avin commented and said, V'lei memar, why wouldn't the master add and say, Uvein sampirov, that the place where this area of the fish that it dried up is only then is yichayev if it dried up a sela. It's only if it was between the fins of the fish. If it dried up over there, then even if the fish are still moving around, it's not going to live anymore. So you should add that point. Amalei. So Ravashi turns to this new student of his that gave him this comment, and he didn't know who he is, and he says to him, and don't you hold that the point that you just said, that the one that said this is Rabbi Yosi bar Avin? So in other words, what he was telling him is, why are you saying this in your own name? You should have said it in the name of the source of the person that said it. As Rashi here says, so what does he tell him? So Amalei tells Ravashi, Anon nihu, I am Rabbi Yosi bar Avin. I am the one that said this. Oh, he didn't know who he was. V'lav, so now Ravashi says, oh, you're Rabbi Yosi bar Avin? V'lav kamei de Rabbi Yosi de min Yukris have shchiach. Weren't you always found as a student to be learning by Rabbi Yosi of Yukris? So what are you doing over here? Have a shchiach mar, isn't that where you were found? Amalei, so he answered him, hen. Yes, I was found in front of Rabbi Yosi of Yukris, but Amalei, so Rashi says to him, my time is shafkimar. So why did the master leave him to come learn by me? And you came here. Amalei, so he answers him, Gavra, a person, the albrei v'albrate lechos, that for on his son and on his daughter he has no mercy. As the Gemara will bring the story here. Alai didi heichi chayis. So on me, how could he have any mercy? So therefore I can't learn Torah by him. So you see an interesting thing here from the Gemara, that to learn from someone Torah, it's not just that he has to be a very knowledgeable person in Torah, but he has to have a person that you know that will have Rachmanis on you. So he says, Rabbi Yosi of Yukris, he won't have any Rachmanis on him. So what's the story? Brei Maihi, what's the story with his son that he had no Rachmanis on his son? Yom echad, one day, have a agrile agiri bedabra. So he had these workers that he had hired to work for him out in the field. Nagaluhu, so he was delayed for them, rifta, and he didn't bring them their food, their bread to eat. Amru le'lebrei, so they said to Rabbi Yosi, again this is Rabbi Yosi of Yukris, his workers. So they said to Rabbi Yosi's son, Kafina, we're hungry. So havayas v'tusitei nasa. So they were sitting under this fig tree. Omar, so Rabbi Yosi's son says, Ta'ena, fig tree, Haitzi perisecha, produce your fruits, v'yoichlu payalei. And the workers of my father should be able to eat. Afiku, they produced these fruits, and v'achlu, and they ate. So a miracle occurs, and immediately they're able to eat. Adahachi v'achi, meanwhile, asavua, so his father, Rabbi Yosi, came, and Amalu, he said to them, Letinkitu b'daiteichu, do not be particular, don't be upset about the fact in your mind that I did not pay attention to you and I'm late, because he explained to them, the reason why I was delayed, because I'm mitzvah tarachna, I was busy doing a mitzvah, until now I was busy with this. Amrulei, so they said to him, Rachmana lizba'acha, the Eibusha should satisfy you, kahechi da'azban, the same way the Eibusha satisfied us, and we ate already, don't worry about it, the Eibusha took care of us. Brach, The asban brech, that is. Okay, just like your son, correct, your son has satisfied us. Amaluhu, so he says to them, Mehecha, from where? From where did my son have food to give you? Amru, so they said, Hachi v'hachi hava maisa. This is exactly what happened, that he said that the fig tree should give its fruits, and it produced fruits immediately. A miracle happened. Amar loi, so he says to his son, Beni, my son, Ata trachta es kainech, you have made the Eibishter work hard over here. Lahaitzi te'ena perisel shaloi bizmana, that this tree had to produce its fig tree had to produce the fruits not in its regular time. Yosef shaloi bizmana, you should also pass away not in your regular time. Yeah, very hard to understand this, but this is the story that happened. So he had no mercy on his son. We'll see soon in the Gemara. The Gemara is going to tell us that you're not supposed to have hana from ma'aseh nisim, from miracles that happen. You're not supposed to have hana from it because it takes away from your schusim. But over here, the Gemara is saying that it was matriach the Eibusha to break nature, and therefore you're not supposed to do that. Even someone that has the koyach to do that. That's the story with his son. Brate, the story with his daughter. Ma'hi, what is this story? Haviolei brata balas yoifi. He had a daughter that was exceptionally beautiful. Yom echad, one day, Chazyalahu Gavre, he sees a person that have a karye behutza, that he's breaking the fence open, the kachazila, and he sees his daughter. He's looking at his daughter. Amaloi, so he says to this man, "My hi, what are you doing here?" Amalei Rebbe, my teacher, Im leloikcha leizachisi, if I can't marry her, leroisa loyeska, should I not merit to see her? So now Rabbi Yossi heard about this. Amallah, he says to his daughter, Biti, my daughter, Kametzares luhu libriyasa. You're causing pain to people. Shuvi la'afrech. Go back to your to dust. Vayikash lebeich b'nei adam. And people should not be stumbled by you. And as the Bachir adds, v'chein ave. That's what happened. Okay, so we see over here that he didn't have mercy not on his son and not on his daughter. Now the Gemara tells us another thing about Rabbi Yossi. He was obviously a tremendous tzaddik, so it's very difficult to understand these stories. But the Gemara brings, Havile'ahu chamra, he had a donkey, kidahavo agri law, so he would rent it out, kol yoim every day. So l'orta, at night, havu mishadrile agra agabo. When the people that rented his donkey would send back the donkey to him, they would place the payment for the rental on top of the donkey, and va'asya lebei mara. And it would automatically walk in the right place and go back to its owner, to Rabbi Yossi. V'tafula, if they put too much money on the donkey, or batzrila, or they put too little money on the donkey, lo asya, it wouldn't move. Yom echad, one day, inshu zugi de sandli Allah, the people that rented the donkey, they forgot a pair of sandals on this donkey. V'lo and it did not move from its place, it didn't go home. Ad shaklunu mina, until they took off the sandals, and v'hada azla, and only then did it go back to its owner, to Rabbi Yossi. So we see that Rabbi Yossi of Yukris was a tremendous tzaddik in this story here. Sagt die Gemara weiter, Elazar ish Birsa. Elazar from Birsa. Kadavachazule gaboy tzedakah. When the collectors of tzedakah saw him, havutashimine, they would run away from him. Why would they run away from him? Because when he saw gaboy tzedakah, whatever money he had in his pocket, he gave them. So they didn't want him to always give away all his money, so they would run away from him. Yom echad, one day, Havisalik l'shuke, he went to the marketplace, l'mizban, l'dunya, l'brate, to buy something as a dowry, some kind of an expensive item, to buy it as a dowry for his daughter. Chaziu gaboy tzedakah, the gaboyim of tzedakah noticed him, toshimine, they ran away from him. Azul v'rod basrayu, so he saw the gaboy tzedakah, so he ran after them. Amaluhu, so he says to them, Eshba'asichu, I want you to make an oath and promise me and tell me, B'mayas kisu, what are you busy with? What are you collecting money for? Amrulei, they said to him, B'yasim v'yisayma, we're marrying off a yasim and a yisayma. Amalehen, so he says to them, Ho'avayda, which is also a term of a shvua, that I swear in the name of the Avayda in the Beis HaMikdash. Shehein kaidmin lebiti, marrying off a yasim and yisayma comes before marrying off my daughter. Shakal kol da'ave ba'adei, he took everything that he had with him, v'yav lahu, and he gave them, but pashle chad zuzah, and he left over, he had only one zuz, and now what did he do with that zuz? Zavin lechiti, he bought a little bit of wheat with that one zuz. And va'asik, he went back home, shadye be'akalba, and he threw it into the storage house of where all the wheat is. This one piece of one little bit of wheat. Asya de Bisu, so his wife comes to him, Amrallah, he says to her, Amrallah lebrate, she says to his daughter, Mai aisi avuch, what did your father bring? Amrallah, so he says to her, Amrallah, she says to her, that is, Koma da aisi, whatever your father brought, Baal kalbisha dise, he threw it into the storage house of the wheat. So Asya lemiftach bavada kalba, she went over there to the storage house. She wanted to open the door of the storage house. Chazes, and she saw a kalba, this storage, the mal yechite, that it was filled with wheat, and the kanafke bitzinure de dashe, so much so that it's sticking out by the doors, by the opening of the door, that it's sticking out. V'lemiftach bava mechite. And it's so much wheat that is packed into the storage all the way out to the door that she couldn't move the door to open up, to go inside. So her daughter went to the shul to tell her father about what she found. So much wheat there. So he says to her, and she says again, that she says to her father, come and see what your beloved did for you, referring to the Eibishter. Look at what the Eibishter made such a tremendous miracle. You brought a little bit of wheat, and the Eibishter filled the entire storage house of wheat. Omar Allah, so he says to his daughter, Ha'aveda, again a shvuah in the name of the Aveda, the Beis HaMikdash, Harei hein hektish alecha. This should all be hektish for you. Ve'en lecha behen ela ke'echad ma'aniyeh Yisrael. And this is not yours. You could only benefit from it like any other poor person amongst the Yidden that can take from this. So here's where Rashi says the reason is because when a nes happens, menaken le mischiyosov, the Eibishter takes away from yischuyos, and therefore you're not supposed to have hana from ma'aseh nisim. And therefore he's telling his daughter, it's not yours, you should not have hana from this. Just like, but you can take from it like any other aniyah Yisrael. This is the Gemara, the Mefarshim asked this question regarding the nes Chanukah. How do they have hana from the nes of the oil if it was a Shem and Nes? If the Gemara says you're not supposed to have the hana of Shem and Nes. The question comes from this Gemara. All discussion about it.
I mean, mitzvah is lo lahana.
Lo lahanis nitna. Okay. Zakt the Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda Nesiyah. Now as Rashi points out, this is not Rabbi Yehuda Anasi, but rather he's a grandson of Rabbi Yehuda Anasi. He was the son of Rabbi Gamliel, which was the son of Rabbi. Gazar Tanisa. So he decreed a tainus because there was no rain, Bayarachme, and they davened, V'loyasa mitra, and it did not rain. Omar, so he said, Kama ikke mishmuel aramasi li Yehuda ben Gamliel. How many generations are there from Shmuel aramasi to Yehuda ben Gamliel? Right, and Shmuel aramasi, when he davens, the Eibishter listens to him right away. And now me, my Yehuda, the son of Gamliel, the Eibishter doesn't daven. Oy loy ledor shekei nitka. Woe to the generation that's stuck like this. Oy loy lemi she'alsa b'yom of kach. And woe to the generation that has this situation. Cholash daite. He felt really bad about the situation that they were in. And v'asa mitra. And that itself actually brought the rain. When he really felt so bad that he knew that he can't rely only on the Eibishter, so that itself caused the rain to come. Another story, the Bein Nesiyah at the house of the Nasi. Gazar Tanisa, they decreed a fast because there was no rain. But they didn't let Rabbi Yechanan and Rish Lakish know about the fast that they decreed. L'tzafra, the next morning, he let them know about the fast for that day. So Rish Lakish tells Rabbi Yechanan, we didn't accept upon ourselves this fast from last night. You're supposed to accept the fast from the day before, and we did not. So what happens? Amar lei. So he says to him, Rish Lakish says to Rabbi Yechanan says to Rish Lakish, Anan basraya garinan. We are going to be dragged after them, even if we did not accept the fast. But the fact that everyone is fasting, we have to fast along with them. Another incident, the Bein Nesiyah Gaza Tanisa, by the house of the Nasi, they once decreed a fast, V'layasa mitra, and the rain did not come. Tana lahu Oishiyah, Zeira de min chavraya. So Oishiyah, which was the youngest of the group of the Tanaim, or Amirayim, and this with two different Oishiyahs, this was the Oishiyah that was the youngest, so he read to them the following pasuk. V'haya me'eina ha'eda nesesa lishgaga. And it'll be from the eyes of the congregation. In other words, from the leaders. They did an Aveda b'sheigi. So he explained what this means. Mashal akala shehi beveis aviyah. A mashal of a kala that's in the house of her father. As long as her eyes are beautiful, you don't have to inspect any other part of her, because you know if her eyes are beautiful, she's beautiful. But if her eyes are not beautiful, then then you have to inspect her to see if she's beautiful. So he was saying this as a mashal regarding the leaders of the generation, that if the leaders of the generation are okay, so then everyone else is fine. So he was saying over here to the house of the Nasi that the reason why it's not raining is because by the Nasi, by the leaders, things are not fine. So after he said this, also Avde, so the servants of the house of the Nasi came, they placed the handkerchief around his neck, and they were giving him pain. So the people of the city came and said to the servants of the house of the Nasi, Shafke, leave him alone. The Hanami Mitzayerlan. He also is Mitzayer us. He speaks to us also sharply in this way. Kivin the Chazinan, but once we saw the Chalmile, all the words that he tells us, the Shum Shamayim, he's saying it for the sake of heaven. Lei Amri Lei Midi, we don't respond to him, we don't bother him. V'Shafkinen Lei, and we leave him alone. Atunami Shafku, you should also leave him alone because he's only saying it for the sake of heaven. He wants you to do tshuva. Another story, Rabbi Gazar Tanisa. Rabbi decreed once a fast, v'layasi mitra, and it did not rain. Nachis kamei ilfe, so Ilfe came in front of him, v'armele Rabbi Ilfi, or Rabbi Ilfi came in front of him, and he davened, and Omar, when he said, Masha v'ruach v'nasa zike, and immediately it began to blow a wind. Meirid ageshem, as soon as he said, Meirid ageshem, v'asa mitra, and the rain came. So they were davening and fasting, and it didn't do anything. And he came, and right away the rain came. Amalei, so Rabbi says to him, what are your good deeds that you zeicha to this? Amalei, so he said to him, Dayarna bekuste dechike. I live in this village where people are very poor. There's no wine for kiddush or avdallah. Tarachne vaisine chamre lekiddush avdalta. And I work hard and I produce the wine for kiddush and avdallah. Umafikne lahu yedei chavisayu. And I mitzi everybody with the kiddush and avdallah. Another story, Rav Ikla Lahu Azra. Rav was at a certain location, Gazet Tanisa, and he decreed a fast, V'lelayasi mitra, and it did not rain. Nachas kamei shlicha de tzibura, someone came as a shliach tzibur and davened, Oma mashav ruach, as soon as he said mashav ruach, v'nashav zika, and it began to blow wind. Oma meirid ageshem, he says meirid ageshem, v'asi mitra, and it begins to rain. Amalei, Rav tells him, my uvdech, what are your good deeds? Amalei says to him, mikri de dardaki ano. I teach little children Torah. Umakrina levnei aniyei kivnei asiri. And I give the same attention. I teach the poor children the same as the rich children. And v'chol d'lo yavshalei. And anytime I see a child that can't learn, lo shaklina minei midi. I don't take anything from him. V'isli peiri. In other words, I don't give him any pain. But what do I do? V'isli peiri de kavri. I have this string that is made to put fish on it. And v'chol man de pasha, any child that's misbehaving, so what do I do with this? With him that is, m'shachdina le minayu. I give sheicha to the child, I bribe him by giving him some of this fish, so from this. U'mesadrinan le, and I organize it for him, u'mefaisinan le, and I appease the child, ada asi vikari, until he comes and learns Torah. So that's his tremendous chus that he had. It's a beautiful piece of Gemara. They should show this to all the teachers. That this chus that they have in teaching Torah, and what you do with a child that doesn't want to learn Torah.
Show this to the administrators.
Yeah, the Bnei Ani and the Bnei Asiri. Oh, that's what it means. Let me go back. That whoever can't pay, I don't take money from them. Right? That's what it means. Okay, very good. Yeah, the tuition, to give the tuition breaks. Sagt the Gemara weiter, Rav Nachman Gazar Tanise. Rav Nachman decreed a fast, and Boyer Rachmi, and he davened, V'layasi mitra, and it did not rain. Omar, so he said, Shaklua leNachman, go take Nachman, referring to himself, and Chavutu min gudelar, throw him down from the roof to the ground, because he felt so bad that Abish was not listening to him. Cholash daite, he felt really bad, and va'asi mitra, and from that itself, the rain came, similar to the story we had before. Rabbe Gazar Tanisa, Rab also decreed a fast, or others are going to say in the Gemara that it was Rove. Boy Rachmi, Daven v'layasi mitra, it did not rain. Amrulei, so they said to him, V'harav Yehuda, ki have a Gazar Tanisa, asim mitra. Rav Yehuda, when he decreed a fast, it would rain. Amalahu, so Rabbe says to them, Ma yavid, what should I do? If it's because of the learning, the level of learning, we are better than their level of learning. The Bishani de Rav Yehuda, in the time of Rav Yehuda, Kol Tunuye b'nezikin hava. Their entire learning was all in Seder Nezikin. That's where they would learn. And we learn in all of the 6 parts of the Shas. We learn everything. When Rav Yehuda came to a Mishnah that was discussing the halacha of Uktzin, which is in the Mishnah in the Masechta Tares, so over there it says the halacha regarding Uktzin is that when you have these stems that's from fruits, so if the stem becomes tamei, the fruit becomes tamei. That's the halacha of Uktzin that it speaks about. Rashi here brings the halacha of the pasuk Mikola Eichel, that it means that even stems or even handles also are connected to the fruit to make it tamei. So it said there in the Mishnah, Ha'isha shekeveshes yerek b'kedeira, a woman that takes a fruit and squeezes out all the juice of it into a pot and the fruit becomes completely dry, so then the stems are not tamei anymore, because the stems, you can't hold the fruit with the stems. It only becomes tamei if you could hold it with the stems, but because it's so dry, it breaks off. Or V'amrila, others say he came to another Mishnah there where it says, Zeisim shekavshan b'tarfeyen tahirin. If you take olives and you pickle it together with the leaves, so the leaves are tahir, the leaves are not one together with the fruit because the leaves break off, they go off once it's pickled. That's the halacha of the Mishnah that they learned there. So Omar, when Rav Yehuda learned this, he said, Havayis de Rav Shmuel k'chazinin hacha. I see over here in this Mishnah very deep things like the questions of Rav and Shmuel, meaning he was saying, I can't really understand the depth of this Mishnah. Because again, they were learning mostly Seder Nezikin. When they came to other Mishnayos, he didn't fully understand the depth of those Mishnayos. And then Rabbi says, Va'anan bar us, kamasninan ba'uktzen, tleiser mesifta. We have 13 yeshivas that are sitting and learning these halachas even of Masechta Uktzin. So our learning is much better than him. Another thing, V'ilu Rav Yehuda. Now, when it came to Rav Yehuda, Kahavishalef chad mesane, when he took off even just one shoe, asi mitra. And it comes and immediately it rains. In other words, he afflicted a tiny drop of pain because of the lack of rain. Immediately it began to rain. V'anan katzavchinan kule yaime, and we are screaming and davening all day. V'lekad ashkechban, and no one is paying attention to us. So why is this? Imishum uvda. Is it because of the good deeds that Rav Yehuda did more than us? So Rabbi says, if there's someone that sees something that we can correct and improve in, let him say. So he says, really, that's not the reason. We're learning better than him, and there's good deeds more than him. What should the great people of the generation do? That their generation, the people of their generation, is not as beautiful or not as great as previous generations, and therefore the Eibush is not listening to me. So now here the Gemara brings the story about Rav Yehuda, that he took off one shoe. Rav Yehuda chaze hanu beitrei. Rav Yehuda saw 2 individuals, avakapartzi berifte. They were behaving inappropriately with bread. They were throwing bread to one another. Omar, he said, Shmami no ikisava balma. So I see that there's such so much in the world, so much food in the world, that people are even playing around with food. Yav aniyah, Yav eine, that is, he put his eyes at them, and have a kafna, and it brought about that people became poor, it became a hunger. So the Rabbanan said to Rav Kahana, the son of Rav Nechunya, which was the servant of Rav Yehuda, Mar, the Ashkech Kamei, Shchiach Kamei, that is, the master, you that are always found, you're the servant of Rav Yehuda, Make it, do it in such a way that he should go out by a doorway, by a place which is close to the marketplace. He wanted Rav Yehuda to see what he caused, that because of his sort of ayin hara, he caused that it should become a time of a hunger. So he did so. Asye, he sort of directed him and brought him, Venafek l'shuke, and Rav Yehuda comes out into the marketplace, and Chaza knufya, he sees a group of people. Amalo, he says to them, "My hai, what's this?" Amrulei akuspe de tamri kaime. We are here by a bowl or by a basket of dates. The kamis daven that's being sold, and everyone is trying to get a little bit of dates. So Omar, he said, "Shmami no kafna balma." Oh, so that means that there must be a hunger in the world. Amar Leila Shamei, so he tells his servant, Shloifli Misani, take off my shoe because of this hunger. Shalaf Lechad Misana, he took off one shoe, V'asa Mitra, and immediately it began to rain. Kimata Lemishlof Achrine, he was going to take off another shoe. Asa Eliyahu Hanavi appears and tells him, V'amalei, Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Eibishter said, Yishalfas Achrine, if you're going to take off another shoe, Mechravin Alma, I'm going to destroy the entire world. So the Mefarshim explain, maybe the Marsha, I don't remember who, says that the reason is because, similar to what we had before, that you're matriach the Eibishter to make these nisim. The Eibishter follows what a tzaddik says to do, but he's matriach the Eibishter first to make a hunger. Now he's matriach the Eibishter to bring rain. Takes off another shoe, being matriach the Eibishter even more to make more miracles. So therefore the Eibishter says, I'm going to make char of the whole world. Amar Rav Mari, Bera, the Bas Shmuel. Rav Mari, the son of the daughter of Shmuel, the grandson of Shmuel, said, Ana have kayimne agude de nahar Papa. I was at the river bank of Papa. Chazoi lemalachi. I saw malachim, the idmul lemalachi. These angels were compared to these people that were the captains on ships. The kamaisi chala, and these malachim, what they were doing is they brought sand, malunu la'arbi, and they were filling the ships with sand. And the sand miraculously turned into the quality of a flour. And also kula alme lemizban. And then these boats were arriving on the shore, and everybody was coming to buy from this now miraculous flour. Amalahu, so he said to them, Mihal loy tizbenon, do not buy from this flour. The maise nisamu, because this is miraculous flour. And as we learned before, you're not supposed to have hana from maise nisam. Lamachar, the next day, Osyan, Arvi, the Chiti, the Parzinia, the boats came and they brought grain from the place Parzinia, and that's how they had their food. Rave ikle la Hagrunya, Rave was found in the city of Agrunya. Gaza Tanise, he decreed a fast, V'layasim Mitra, and it did not rain. Amar Luhu, so he said to them, Bisu kula alme betanisaichu, go to sleep still fasting, don't break your fast yet. The next day he says to them, did anybody see something unique in his dream? Leme, let him say it. Amalu Rabbalazar Magrunya, so Rabbalazar said, Lididi Akarion Bechalmi, to me, they was said to me, they read to me in my dream, Shalom Tav, that peace and good, Larav Tav, to the Rebbe is good, Meiribain Tav, from the Master is good, the Mituve Meitiv La'ami, from his goodness he does good for his nation. That's what was read for him. So he said, Shmami no, so this means that Eis Ratzni, that this is a good time, an auspicious time to daven. Miboye Rachmi, he asked for mercy, they daven then again, so Miboye Rachmi V'asim Mitra. Again, Eis Ratzni Miboye Rachmi, it's a good time to daven, and then so they daven V'asim Mitra, and the rain came. Hahu Gavre, there was an individual, the Chayev Nagda Bebeidine de Rav, that he was Chayev to be punished with lashes in the Bezdin of Rav, this is, Mishom the Baal Kutis, because he had a relationship with a Goyish girl. Nagde Rav, so Rav gave him lashes umis, to the point that he passed away. Eshtame Milse be Shvoyer Malke, so Shvoyer Malke found out about this. So she wanted to bring pain on Rava. So now Rava's life was in danger. Ifra Hormez, so Ifra Hormez, which was the mother of Shver Malka, said to him, Rashi here explains this name, Ifra Hormez. Ifra Hormez means that she was very beautiful, like Hormez, which was one of the Shadim. Anyways, so Ifra Hormez tells him, Lebra, to her son, don't bother, don't have anything to do with the Jews. In other words, she was trying to save Rava. Don't have anything to do with Rava. The Choman the boy mimarayu, whatever they ask from their master, from the Eibishter, Yavlu, the Eibishter gives them. Omar Law, so he says to his mother, Maihi, what is this? Well, where do you see that whatever they ask for, they get? Boyin rachme v'asimitra. They'll ask for rain and immediately it'll rain. Omar Allah, he says to his mother, no, it's not because they davened for this. The reason why it rains is because it's a season for rain. It's not because of their davening. Let me see if they can daven for rain now in the middle of the summer in Tammuz, and let it rain. Then I'll know that they're taka special, that the Eibishter listens to them, and I won't bother Rava. Shalcha leile Rava. So this Ifra Hormuz that was apparently she had a friendly, or she wanted to save Rava, so she sent to Rava and said to him, Kaven daitech, concentrate on your davening, uboy rachmi, and ask for mercy, the leisi mitra, that it should rain, so your life will be saved. Boy rachmi, so you daven, v'lo yasi mitra, and it still didn't rain. Amalafanav, so he says to the Eibusher Rebbeinu, Shalayla, Master of the universe. And he quoted the following pasuk: Elikim ba'azneinu shamaynu. The Eibusher, we heard with our ears. Aviseinu siprulanu. Our forefathers have told us. Poyal palta b'meim. You have brought miracles in their times. We make kedem in the days before. Va'anu beineinu leireinu. But we did not yet see this with our eyes. So he was asking the Eibusher that they should see miracles with their eyes. Asi mitra, began to rain adashafach marzevid Tzipayri, until the gutters of the city of Tzipayri was spilling out water lediglas, and the water flowed all the way down to the river Diglas. Asavu, so this is the miracle that Rava did, and it saved his life. Asavu, his father came to him, his chazile b'chalmei appeared to him in a dream, v'amale, and he said, Mi ikke de mitrach kamishmaya kulahai. Is there anybody that's allowed to be matriach the Eibusher to this extent, to change nature, that in the middle of the summer it should rain? Amalei, his father, tells Rav in his dream, Shani duchtech, change your place of where you're sleeping. Shani duchte, he went and changed his place where he's sleeping. L'machar, the next morning, Ashkechei, the Mirsham Purya Besakini. He found marks of knives on his bed. In other words, the Shadim came there and they were going to take away his life because of what he did, that he caused the Eibusher to change the nature. Amalei Rav Nachman, skipped a line. Rav Pape, Gazer Tanisa, Rav Pape decreed a fast, V'layasi mitra, and it did not rain. Cholish libe, he felt really bad. Sorav Pinche de Daisa, he went out and he ate some cereal, some grits. Uboy Rachmi, and he davened V'layasi mitra, and it still didn't rain. Amalei Rav Nachman, so Rav Nachman says, Bar Ushpezisi. Bar Ushpezisi. What does that mean? What's the translation? Okay, that's what this Rav Nachman was. Rav Nachman Bar Ushpezisi said, Isaref mar pincha chrite dedaise. Maybe if you'll eat a little bit more of grits, asi mitra. Maybe then it'll rain. In other words, he's telling him, he's mocking him. You're eating a little bit, and then you think that from your eating the rain is going to come. Ichsev, so Rav Papa got embarrassed, v'cholash daite, and he felt really bad about the situation he's in, v'asi mitra, and that itself brought the rain. Here again we see this thing that sometimes you feel really bad, so you know you can rely only on the Eibusher, and then it will rain. Rav Chanina ben Daisa. Here the Gemara is going to bring a few different stories about Rav Chanina ben Daisa. It goes into the next Amud. Let's start a little bit the stories here. So Havaka'azal ba'orcha, he was going on his way, asi mitra, and began raining. Amalofanav, so he says to the Eibusher, Rebbeinu shalaylam, kol ha'olam kulei benachas, the entire world is at peace, at calm. V'chanina b'tzar, but Chanina has pain from the rain in the middle of the way now that I'm traveling. Pasak mitra, the rain stops. Kimata lebei, say when he arrives home, Amalofanav, he says to the Eibusher, Rebbeinu shalaylam, kol ha'olam kulei b'tzar. Now the entire the entire world that is, has tsar because their fields need rain. Chanina benachas, and Chanina is home and he's happy. And the Rashi says he didn't have any fields, so he didn't need the rain. So now asim mitra. Now it began raining again. So this was the koyach of Rav Chanina's davening. Rav Yosef said, Maya hanyule tzloisa the kohen gadol legabe Rav Chanina ben Daisa. We see over here that the tefillah that the kohen gadol davens on Yom Kippur did not help because Rav Chanina's ben Daisa's davening was even stronger. What does this mean? The Tanan, because we learned in the Mishnah, what did the Kohen Gadol daven? He would daven a short tefillah when he came out of the Kodesh HaKadoshim. My matzi, what would he daven? Rav and Barada, Rav Barada, Amri Tavaya, they both said, Mishmei de Rav Yehuda, in the name of Rav Yehuda, that his tefillah was as follows. Yiratzmu fanecha Hashem Elokeinu. Shetehei Hashana Azuk Shumo Shchuno. Let this year be rainy and hot. So the Gemara explains what he davened. Shchuna ma'al yasihi, that the year should be hot, that's good. If it's too hot, if everything dries up, it's not good. Ella, what he would daven is, im shchuna, if it's going to be very hot in the summer, tehei geshuma tlulo. So then in the winter there should come a lot of rain and dew to make up for this heat. That's what he would daven. And then he would continue and say, Val yikanis lefanecha tfilas oivrei drachim. And the people that are traveling on the way and the daven that the Eibusher should stop the rain, don't listen to their tefillah. That's what the Kohen Gadol would say. But over here, Rav Chanina ben Daisa, though, when he asked the Eibusher to stop the rain, the Eibusher did listen to him. Rav Ache berei de Rave Misayim Mishmei de Rav Yehuda. he would say, this tefillah over of the Kohen Gadol, he would conclude that tefillah in the name of Rav Yehuda, Lo yadi avet shilton mid the Beis Yehuda. The Eibusha should not remove the rulership from the house, from the kingdom of Yehuda. And your nation, the Yidden, should not have to rely on parnasa one on the other. Everyone should have what they need themselves. They should not have to rely on any other nation. Okay, one more last thing over here, I guess, with Rav Chanina ben Daisa. Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav, b'chol yoyim v'yoyim, every single day, baskel yitzis v'aymeres. There's a baskel that comes out and says that kol ha'olam kulei nizen b'shvil Chanina b'ni. The entire world is being fed because of my son Chanina. Chanina b'ni, but my son Chanina himself, dayoi, for him he's satisfied, it's enough for him, b'kav charuvim mi'erev Shabbos to erev Shabbos. Just with a little bit of measure of charuvim, of karib, from one erev Shabbos to another erev Shabbos, he's satisfied with that. There's the famous pshat in this Gemara when it says that kol ha'olam kulei nizen b'shvil Chanina b'ni, that the word b'shvil does not only mean because of, but it means also shvil, like a funnel, like all the hashpah that comes in the world goes through Chanina b'ni. He is the tzaddik of the generation, and everything comes through him, and he gives everything to everyone else, and for him, he's satisfied just with a kav charuvim.